Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining me today is my great co-host, Gary. Gary, how you doing?
Doing pretty good today. Listen, we've been pretty excited for the past week or past couple days, ever since we announced that we're doing this mock draft. So can't wait.
It's a Makalakathon week. That's what it is.
It is.
I'm excited. I don't know why my camera decides to bug out, but as long as audio is working, I guess the show can keep going, right?
Yes, sir.
You know? It is bugging though. It is tripping.
Yeah, it is. What
But let's first dive right into some news and notes from around the league. And we'll start with some news about Andy Dalton. The man can still play. Panthers are re-signing him as their backup for another 2 years. That is solely because he knows the offense. And the 37-year-old, he's getting up there in age. He knows the offense. You might as well just have a good veteran, an okay veteran to just back up Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, it makes sense totally, especially because Bryce Young's been turning up towards the end of the season. So how big of a role Andy Dalton is in his progression, I don't really know, but we've seen over time that it's always nice to have an experienced play caller in the same room as a rookie or a young guy. So
Yeah, and obviously we saw Andy Dalton play a little bit when he came in, had to play, and he actually didn't look that bad, to be honest.
Him and Deontay Johnson were cooking when they were together.
They were. What were they cooking? They were cooking losses at points.
Yeah, that's true.
But
That's true.
it is what it is. But hey, I didn't expect Andy Dalton to be the first quarterback of free agency to be signed. We didn't even have him on our predictions.
Yeah, that's bad.
I mean, I would have probably predicted him to go back to the Panthers because where else is he going to go?
Right.
Back to the Bengals as a backup? No, they
Right.
got Jake Browning. I was looking on NFL.com, saw some possible cut candidates. Just quickly going down the list and just talking maybe like a minute, if less, about each player. Devontae Adams, we don't have to talk about because it's already expected, but he is a cut candidate. Travis Kelce, he's obviously these are not going to happen. They could though, because this saves a lot of money for the team. Travis Kelce, if they cut him, they save $17.3 million. I mean, obviously they're probably just going to restructure his contract, and if they don't, he's probably going to be retiring. Yeah. Going on to Mark Andrews, they cut him, save $11 million. Now they could technically cut him. Obviously, the team's going to jump on him and sign him right away because if he is a great tight end, but they do have Isaiah Likely. So could be a trade candidate during the season.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a situation and a name to watch. Just a couple of years ago, he was contending for the best tight end in the league and definitely had a terrible start to this year, but closed out pretty good. And you could say that he finished pretty badly too with that drop in the end zone versus the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. Teams are going to be jumping on him if he were to become a free agent. So definitely a name to keep an eye on.
And then let's go on to a couple defensive players on this list. Joey Bosa, $25.4 million that they saved. They cut him. Can you believe that?
I mean, would they do that? I don't think so.
No, I mean, they would have to restructure the contract. If not, I mean, he's going to have to get on the trading block.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the
but
best.
I doubt they trade him.
He's one of the best defensive ends in the game. I doubt they'll trade him either, especially with, I mean, their team is so young, and he's not relatively old either. So,
yeah,
it just makes sense to keep him around.
Yeah. Von Miller. Now, this one's an interesting one. The Bills are $17 million over the cap right now. If they cut Von Miller, who is up there in age, $6.4 million in dead cap they would get and have to hold on, but they do save $17.4 million. So with the dead cap, they're right around that cap that they need to get to. And I think this actually could happen. This is something that could happen.
I honestly expect it to happen, if I'm being 100% honest with you. Man, he's just so old, and the production's still somewhat there, but definitely not what he's normally up to, I guess. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, he's really, really old now, so I wouldn't really expect the production to still be there. But, there comes a time where you just got to make a business decision. I expect the Bills to do that this offseason.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if. I mean, they could probably just go draft someone if they need
Right.
to, really,
Exactly.
based on how his production has been too. Christian Kirk. This one's very unlikely to happen, but they would have a $13.7 million in dead cap, but they would also save $10.4 million. I don't really see anything happening with Kirk. They did sign him to that long-term deal. It's kind of the Kirk and Brian Thomas show over there, and I think that's just how it's going to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know because just remember, like before the season started, everybody was so high on Christian Kirk, me being one of those people,
Me as well.
because the phrase was, "Look what he did when he was a wide receiver one, and now he's going to
Yeah.
get back to that," but he didn't at all, and that's because Brian Thomas came along. That's not to say that they're just going to completely get rid of Christian Kirk because they found a one in Brian Thomas, but still doesn't fit the role and narrative that has been spiraling the past couple of years. So that I think is also a name to look out for because I think that he can still make a pretty big role in a contending team if he were to go to one.
Here's my quick question: Could Brian Thomas be like a Juju Smith, where he thrives as the wide receiver too, but when it's his time to shine, he can't?
I mean, maybe yes and no. I'll be honest with you, I don't think so. I think that, well, I mean, Brian Thomas is a better wide receiver after what
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think that you can just throw him in that offense and say you're the number two, especially because, I mean, I think he had a significantly better season than Christian Kirk. So yeah, I don't think so, but again, we'll see.
Debo Samuel saves $5.1 million if they cut him. Obviously, they want to try and trade him. If they can't trade him, I think he could easily be cut. Gone. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, seems like a huge trade candidate right now, and I heard they're looking for like a day 3 pick or something like that. Which
That's kind of the Cooper Cup though situation. Isn't it like a fourth and a seventh? I know fourth is a day 2, but like it's like a towards the end of day 2. I mean, I'd rather pay a fourth and a seventh or fourth and a sixth for Cooper Cup than like a fifth or even sixth for Devo.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're like a contending team, no matter what, you're okay with giving up a 4th rounder for one of those players at least. Man, I have talked about this in the past. I know for a fact I will never understand the trade market. I completely get that, like, these guys are getting older in age and probably money gets costed for in terms of what you're giving up in the trade. But like realistically, how many players of Debo Smith or Cooper Cup's caliber do you find in the 4th round?
Yeah.
Or after?
I mean, there's not too many.
Exactly.
But there could be.
Yeah, there could be, I guess, but I don't
know. Something else. Next, I'm going to name the next 3. They're all Saints. And as we know, the Saints, they are not looking good in cap space.
Never do.
And of course, their 3 guys, their 3 top guys to name is Marshawn Lattimore. They saved $18 million if they cut him. Or actually, sorry, he's not a part of that. He used to be. Cameron Jordan, saves $11 million if you cut him after the June 1st designation. Derek Carr, $21.5 million in dead cap. $30 million you save if you cut him after June 1st designation. And Taysom Hill, June 1st, post June 1st, saves $10 million. Now, here's the problem. They can't cut all 3 after June 1st because by NFL rules, you cannot cut more than 2 players post June 1st designation. So if they do want to cut two of them, most likely it's Taysom Hill and Jordan after it, because I highly doubt they're going to cut Derek Carr. But if they do want to cut Derek Carr, they save $30 million. They would hold a 21.5 dead cap, but saving $30 million, that's a lot of money. If you really want to cut down all that money and restart the whole thing, just do it.
Cutting Derek Carr would actually be the first move in my Saints rebuild.
I would too.
I mean, they're in cap space hell every single year, and he's not that good. He's just really not. That, like I said, that'd be my first move. Then you just start from the ground up. I would probably. You said Cam Jordan, and who else was the other one?
Cameron Jordan, Derek Carr, and Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, right? Yeah, I mean, we both think that they're going to lose out on Juwan Johnson, which will, I mean, be a big loss. But do you also think that you need to retain Taysom Hill? I don't, because if you're going to be in a huge rebuild, I don't necessarily think that you need to give a ton of money to a guy who just does a little bit of everything, which I also don't think is that good. So I will go with those two guys, if I'm being honest, and you save a ton of money.
And so you're fine keeping Cameron Jordan?
I am. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not fine with keeping any of them, but
okay.
I would probably 100% rather keep Cam Jordan just because he's the oldest in a rebuild. I guess you're looking to get the oldest out the door, and so I mean, I don't know how much longer he would be there for, but it's not long. So
I would agree with you. I just say I would agree with you because I think Cameron Jordan still holds some type of importance to the team.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill, love Taysom Hill and his ability to do everything, but unfortunately, he's just getting overpaid. He was getting paid kind of like what a quarterback was getting paid, and unfortunately, he's not a quarterback full time. So I think it's time to cut ties. Derek Carr, Taysom Hill, and please, Kellen Moore, help save the Saints organization. Yeah. Moving on to Marshawn Lattimore, though, saving $18 million if you cut him. I would personally just expect a restructure on the contract.
So do I. Yeah.
And lastly, Keith mentioned this last week during the wide receiver show. I think in our doc. Tyler Lockett, he's a cut candidate. They would have $14 million in dead cap, but they would save $17 million. To me, as much as you could say, yeah, he's a cut candidate, I think Lockett should be locked in for life as a Seattle Seahawk. I don't think you can move on from him. I think you just restructure the contract, figure out what you can do, and just keep him until he retires.
I think that you can cut him.
Ooh.
The thing is, like, you see what JSN can – like, JSN just had an unbelievable year. Not what a lot of people expected out of him after his rookie year. And I would just pick up another wide receiver, like, in the second or third round of the draft. Lockett's getting older, but that's not to say that, like, his tires are falling off because he's protected himself well. He's one of the guys that makes secure catches. As soon as he catches the ball, he goes to the ground. He's talked about that numerous times to keep his health how he wants to be. So it's not necessarily the fact that he's just not playable anymore. But, again, he is getting older. He's a good amount of money. I would just rather draft a wide receiver 3 in the draft that's already pretty deep, so you could get some value in the second or third round, and you save a lot of money. So,
honestly, if you're drafting a wide receiver at that point, with how deep it is, I'd probably just go with like a 4th round, like an early day.
Yeah, you can do that too, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or a 5th round as well. Yeah, I think 4th and 5th is perfectly fine with me. That's all for the cut candidates. Let's go on to the franchise tag candidates. Only 3 names to name. T. Higgins has been reportedly rumored to get another franchise tag. I don't think it's been official. But again, will he sign is the question. Wide receivers are projected to make $26 million in that franchise tag. Should he sign it, Kerry, if they do offer it to him?
I don't know, man. It's just like if I'm T Higgins, like I'm tired. Like,
I
like
agree.
I show loyalty to this team. I just want to, get a good contract. I want to stay here. Not necessarily saying I want the most money in the world, but I want to stay here. The quarterback that I'm great friends with wants me here. He said he would restructure his contract to get it done. Why can't we make something work?
Yeah.
I would be annoyed. He says he wants to stay there, so if I had that mindset, I guess I would still sign it. But it's like, how much longer can they keep this going? I just think it's bad business by the Bengals, but we'll see.
Yeah, you can't just keep stringing him on. It's just going to get worse and worse. You're going to break the mutual respect between the two.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin, another one on the franchise tag candidates. He's, again, wide receiver, so still projected to make $26 million on a franchise tag. Unfortunately, you tell me this before he went down with the injury, I'd say 100% I think he's worth a franchise tag. After the injury, is he worth $26 million? I don't think so. I think that's just too much, especially coming off an injury. And it's not like it was a small injury. It was a big injury. And he's up there in age, or getting up there in age. I think that they should not franchise tag him. As an organization standpoint, as Chris Godwin's standpoint, I would sign it. Just, again, stay a buck for life.
No, I completely agree with both of what you said, honestly. I think what they have in Tampa Bay is, well, of course, they just lost Liam Cohen. That's a big loss. I honestly forget about that. It's going to be different in Tampa Bay. But in terms of a roster standpoint, I love what they have going on.
Yeah.
So if they can keep that core around for a while, Baker can keep his head on straight, then who knows? I think they're going to be a scary team to face in the playoffs if they can keep this core around.
Yeah, if they can all stay healthy too, that's a big one. Big one.
Yeah, that's it.
Lastly, before we get into the biggest part of the show, Sam Darnold. Again, the biggest question mark is that Vikings quarterback room. What happens? Do they keep the rookie? Do they keep Sam Darnold? What happens? Well, obviously Sam Darnold is projected to get $40+ million a year. The franchise tag right now for a quarterback is $40 million. If you told me this 5 years ago, that Sam freaking Darnold, the guy that sees ghosts, would be making $40 million in Minnesota, I tell you, you're delusional.
You're out of your mind.
But unfortunately, that's the reality that we're talking about in the 2025 offseason. For Sam Darnold's sake, I say you just sign it. Say screw it. If you suck next year, hey, you signed a big contract with like a franchise tag contract, big contract, whatever, walk away in the sunset. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen because I think Sam Darnold wants that long-term stability and security. And I think that's going to be the biggest issue that he's going to try and push for. If he can't get anything like that done, then yeah, he's probably just going to sign.
I can see either outcome, honestly. Do I think the Vikings would be smart to do it? No, because I just don't think you should give Sam Darnold that money. But that's
no, they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
They shouldn't. That's just the way the game's going now, I guess. So that's definitely a name to keep an eye on for because, yeah, he went off this year, but I think that he truly showed his true colors in that playoff game versus the Rams. And I think that was a big eye opener for teams that going into this offseason may have thought he was a name for them to consider. Mm-hmm. And maybe they might be going back on that, but who knows? Like I said, the game's changing, and Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy, who I respect and like Brock Purdy a lot, but do I think he's worth 40, 45 million, whatever he wants?
No. I guess we'll have to see. Again, we're still about a few weeks away from really starting this season officially.
Yep.
But it is time for the Makalakathon. I don't know why, but it's just so great. It's so great. It's the Makalakathon this week. We're all around talking and drafting the first round of the NFL draft. And It's the first one, version 1.0. You see in the title. So obviously free agency hasn't happened. So obviously these things could very much change. Comparing this one to maybe our last mock draft, maybe the last weeks or days, maybe the day before the draft, it could look very different.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind. But again, based on our picks, I think we're also going to try and make picks that are going to determine our landing spots that we picked for our free agency as well. Okay. I think that's kind of what we're going to base it off as well. So if you haven't done that, check out our last two shows. And also check us out on social media at SportsTimeHQ. All right, I'm done plugging everything in, but let's go into it. Gary, this is how we're going to break it down. This is how we're going to break it down here. You are going to take all the AFC teams. I'm going to take the NFC teams.
Awesome. So I just have a boatload of picks in the first 7 picks.
Yeah, so you can pretty much tell me what you're looking for, how you're looking for it, anything along those lines. And I'm perfectly fine giving input as well. Tennessee Titans, you are on the clock with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 draft. The Tennessee Titans are selecting.
All right, Freddie, do I have just the keys to this right here? Do I have any move I want to make? I can do it?
I guess so. I mean, hey, if you want to.
Well, in that case, I don't know if this is what you would think I was going to do, but Tennessee Titans have picked up a call from the New York Giants.
Ooh, I don't know if I can do trades, but we're going to see if we can do trades. Let's see. Can I get a trade? I don't know if I can, actually. That's actually sad. That's actually so sad. We will get a trade coming. But give me your hypothetical. If you were.
Okay. So I think what I truly do think is going to happen, I think the Giants are going to jump the Browns. I do. I think they're going to go in that at 1. They love Shedeur Sanders. They have such a good mutual relationship with him that I don't think Shedeur would actually want to play in Tennessee. So I think the bridges are burned there between them. I think Tennessee likes Cam Ward. I know there's this thing going around that they like Travis Hunter. I think that's just a smokescreen. So I would have Tennessee in the 3 spot with the Giants at the 1, and Cam Ward going to the Titans. So I will have Cam Ward being the first player selected off the board here. You're muted, by the way.
I don't know how I got muted, but I guess somehow I muted myself. But yeah, I think this is the consensus 101, unless Tennessee moves back.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a smoke scheme right now that they like Hunter, but I don't think it's going to end up that way. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I think, is there any way, say Tennessee does get a quarterback in free agency, is there a way that they maybe draft a defensive player in like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter?
Definitely. I think they were bottom 5 in sacks last year. So Abdul Carter would definitely be a top name. I think he's the best overall player in this draft, if I'm being 100% honest with you.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, you were on the clock. Your team, the Cleveland Browns, and I already have a feeling I know where this is going.
Do you?
I know where it's going. Do I? I would think so. But what's your pick?
I'm assuming you're looking for this guy, right?
Which guy?
Shedeur Sanders, is that who you're looking for?
Yeah, I am looking for Shedeur Sanders. Is this the guy you're going to go with?
The pick is Abdul Carter.
Ooh, okay. I love it. Love it.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, I think that you should just get a bridge quarterback if you're the Browns. I say to myself, I think I told this to you, this is the first time I felt like I've actually had no way out for the Browns. Like, I don't know where they're going to go. But, man, this is a rebuild, right? So it's not just a 1 year and you're done thing.
Yeah.
I think that you need to solidify your edge either way if Myles Garrett leaves or stays. He requested a trade, but I think what he wants is for us to draft Abdul Carter. Maybe that gets him to stay, and then we get a bridge quarterback, somewhat do okay, maybe, If not, that's
Mm.
also fine because then we'll have a top pick for a quarterback, hopefully. And yeah, so as much as I love Shadur Sanders, I think the right pick is Abdul Carter. And like I said, I think he's the best player in this draft.
I'd agree with you. I think he is one of the best players in this draft, and I also do think that the Browns, they don't need to go for Shador Sanders. But the Giants are on the clock.
Mm.
Does a Sander go to a Giant, a division rival of Deion Sanders? Unfortunately, I did predict Russell Wilson to go there. Now the question is, would they draft Shador Sanders, signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as a backup? I think Jameis Winston could be easily a cut candidate depending on how much they're paying him. I mean, he could also just not even be in the NFL anymore.
Yeah.
I think personally, I think Shador is not 100% NFL ready. I think this is still. I think I'm not saying he is a full season not ready. I just think he shouldn't be a week 1 starter.
All right.
Hurt
my heart. It's my guy.
But I think this guy would be. I think the Giants would be. This would be the smartest thing for the Giants to do. And I think you have to take Shador Sanders here. Sorry, Gary. That's what you're.
Yeah, no, that's what I would have done. So
be nice to me here.
No, I mean if this is the way that the draft plays out, then Patriots fans are so happy because they have arguably the best player in the draft fall right into their hands in Travis Hunter, and they jump on it. That's who they go with.
Okay.
I think it's the obvious pick if he gets to 4 because granted, Gonzalez played great last year, but outside of him, their secondary was god-awful. And if he was to play both sides of the football, even if it was partially, he could help them out in their wide receiver room, which I actually don't think is as bad as some people may make it out to be. So
see, I think I was very hyped on the whole getting Travis Hunter. I think I faded away from it.
Really?
I think so, and I think it's because I think I'm starting to fall in love with a true wide receiver that has some hype, and he might be a Buckeye.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. So I didn't realize, I didn't know if he was going to be a first rounder or like an early second rounder, but I think how do you say his name? Emeka Egbuka? Yeah, Emeka Egbuka. I think personally, I think he is a guy that I would actually love to see thrive with Drake May. And I think if the Patriots are smart, trade back. Try and get some draft picks. Because you obviously know everybody's all in on Travis Hunter. And again, the biggest hype guy could also be the biggest bust guy. We saw in Marvin Harrison last year. Not saying he's going to be a full bust, but I'm just saying you didn't see flashes that we expected to see. And we might see that again with Travis Hunter. He's also saying that he's going to play corner. That's the bigger question. Does he play wide receiver? Does he play corner? Can it be sustainable for a player to play both positions? Can he be the Shohei Ohtani of NFL? I don't know. Territorial McMillan, you could say he's the wide receiver 2, arguably, or technically the wide receiver 1, if you want to put it that way. I think it might be Ibuka, and I think he's going to flash. And sometimes it's not the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 that comes out of the draft that's the star-studded guy. Sometimes it's a little bit after that we really find those true gems, those middle guys in the first round. And I think it could be the Buckeye guy. And I know that your ego and your hype, you're all over it.
Listen, I can't hate on that pick at all. I love Mecca. He was always over-reliable at Ohio State, so definitely near and dear to me.
Yeah.
Now,
you've had a lot of time.
Jaguars are officially on the clock. And, man, they do need some help. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. I'm looking at that big, disgusting yellow M for Mason Graham. And that's actually what I was not going to do.
Oh.
That's okay.
My fault.
That's totally fine because they might take him here too. I was actually going to go his teammate, Will Johnson,
Oh,
which I think they need unbelievably bad because they were, I believe, the worst pass defense in the league. Um, I think he is an absolute lockdown corner. As much as I hate again that big yellow M, um, he's one of the best cornerbacks I've seen coming out of college. So
Will Johnson also to the Raiders, you saying?
no, I would say that he would go in that
Okay.
5 spot for the Jags.
I can always reload this. It's not like we're five. It's not like we're 20 picks in.
I shouldn't have made it as dramatic as I did, so I apologize.
You made it very dramatic, and you actually got me. You actually had me going. I was
I gotta do something to add some flair, right?
yeah. Oh my goodness. Interesting. That's an interesting pick. I actually was expecting you to go with that Michigan guy, that random Michigan guy.
Yeah. Well,
I thought Mason Graham was going to be the guy.
I think it's either one of them, if I'm being honest with you, because I mean it's gonna be a defensive guy no matter what, I think, because their defense was just absolutely awful. The thing
Mhm.
is, like, their D line isn't that bad. Like, I don't really think it is. I mean, Josh Hines Allen is a beast.
Yeah.
And I think him and even Trayvon Walker actually wasn't terrible last year either. So I think that DB situation they have is 10 times worse. And I think they're gonna fix it right there with Will Johnson. Now, number 6 with the Raiders. If Shedeur Sanders is still here, he is without a question going.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I think they, like you, are in love with the thought of a true wide receiver one. And right now, I think it is Tedero and McMillan. So that's where they're going to go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm waiting. I'm making sure I wait to hear
Yeah,
your
right.
official
No,
response.
that one was where I was going.
Yeah, I think if you're not getting a quarterback, or if you do find one in the free agency, then this is where it's going to flip. If they don't go for a quarterback, they're going for a receiver and drafting a quarterback. If they go for a quarterback, they're drafting a receiver, vice versa. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about for the Raiders, though. Oh well, you're still on the clock. I hate to break it to you. I mean,
yeah.
I'll
Well,
pick someday.
yeah. No, you'll have a few. I think you have at least 5 in a row coming up. So
Yeah.
this is my last one, and for me, it's another obvious one. The Jets just hired Aaron Glenn as their head coach, defensive-minded guy. Mason Graham, debatably the best defensive player in this draft.
Hmm.
Or no, I guess not. But he's one of the best.
Yeah.
I think you got to go with him here. Complete brute disruptor. Mason Graham is going to help immensely on that Jets defensive line.
Yeah, I think I would easily agree with that. Again, they could add some defensive weapons, but I think Aaron Glenn being so defensively minded, like you said, what better way? You already have a pretty decent offense. Why don't you just keep adding to your defense that you have the specialty with?
Exactly.
Well, the Panthers, you could pretty much say they need just about everything. They don't have offensive line. I still believe they need offensive line, but um, this is interesting. I think I think personally they're going to kind of reach because that's what the Panthers do. Now I'm debating between James Pierce and Mike Green. I think they're going to lean on the bigger name on James Pierce, and I think that's going to be their defensive player that they're going to draft.
Yeah,
It's my
James
draft.
Pierce, the guy that was thought to be the clear-cut number 1 overall draft pick by the time the season has started, or like a month before the season has started last year. So definitely a guy that, if he falls, could be great value for whoever gets him.
Yeah. Saints. This is another one they need just about everything and everything. You could go for a wide receiver here that they need. I think they're also gonna. Man, I want to do it, and I think I am. I think I'm gonna do it.
Really?
You're looking at me thinking I'm gonna pick a Mika, but I'm not. I'm going to pick a tight end because they just lost
Wow.
Jawan Johnson.
Wow.
Because it's what they're gonna do. It's what they're gonna do because Kellen Moore is strategically offensive minded, and I think they need to add pieces to the offense. And if they can't pay him, you might as well draft some of the guys.
Okay.
I don't think Tyler Warren is the best tight end in this draft. We're going to see it a little later that I think is a little bit better than Tyler Warren, but I think this is just what they're going to have to do. They could go defense, but it also goes down to Cameron Jordan. Do they cut him? If they cut him, then they're going to go defensive line here.
Okay.
But I don't think they will. I think we can all say that this might be a consensus. This could be a consensus pick here.
Really?
DeAndre Swift is not the answer, and no running back on that team is the answer. You might as well get one of the greatest running backs that we've seen in recent history in college in some random school, breaking records every which way, plays on a blue field. That's this random guy from Boise State, Ashton G&T. You might as well pick him up. I love this. I think this is the perfect play for them because I think they need to get a solid running back. Add the weapons to Ben Johnson's offense. Sky's the limit for G&T as well.
Man, I want to agree with you so bad, but I unfortunately can't. I just think.
Really?
Here's the thing with the Bears, right? Like, they still haven't figured their offensive line out. Caleb Williams got sacked like 50-something times. It was like the third most in a single season.
They're going to go in the offseason in free agency.
They better hope because, I mean, they just saw what kids now think is the GOAT quarterback go out and get put on his ass how many times because that offensive line couldn't protect him. I think so many teams are going to take note of that. And if they want Caleb Williams to be to be able to live up to that potential, I think they're going to have to continue to go O-line. But that pick doesn't surprise me at all. He fills a huge void and is one of the best running backs I've ever seen out of college. So
yeah, he's actually amazing to see the highlights with. San Fran's on the clock. Christian McCaffrey, you need to protect him. You got to protect Brock Purdy too. He's just been getting sacked left and right, and this season just looked horrendous for the line. You could go guard, but I think tackle's the best guy, and I think Will Campbell is the best available offensive line guy. I think he was pretty good at LSU, and I think it goes to show why he should be drafted. I think he should be drafted top 10, but I think with the amount of offensive weapons that we see in this draft, we may see a lot of guys outside of that get dropped a little bit more.
Don't hate it.
I'm still here. I'm still on the clock here. With the Dallas Cowboys, I can't stand them, and I just want to give anyone terrible to them. This is also a place that they could try and get G&T in because of the fact that if they don't re-sign Rico Dowdle and they don't get a running back in the free agency market, Brandon Cooks is also going to be gone. They only really have CeeDee Lamb. They don't really have anyone else. It just screams like a Jerry Jones type of move. What they did with CeeDee Lamb and turned out to be amazing. They could go for a guy here named Luther Burton or Ibuka, but I don't think they need to. I think they need to protect Dak Prescott or whoever's going to be the quarterback. Give me Josh Simmons.
Hey, I don't hate it at all.
Of course, because he's a Buckeye.
Well, before he got hurt, he looked like he could be the best tackle in the draft, and that's the only reason why he's fallen this far. So,
yeah, I think they need to protect. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to be smart. He's going to do something dumb, but I think they need to protect him.
Man, so if you are the Dolphins, I think you just got sniped because –
yeah. Sorry.
Man, you got to protect Tua or whoever is going to be the quarterback. This is definitely an opportunity to take the best player in the draft, Malachi Starks, because their defense also is not all that good. But I think the bigger thing is keeping him safe. I think
reach.
What's that?
Are you going to reach?
Probably. It's either between Calvin Banks or Tyler Booker.
Mm.
I think I'm going to go with Calvin Banks. I mean, a lot of people also thought coming into the season he was the best tackle prospect here, and I think the upside's there. And like I said, they need to keep to a healthy 3 tackles in a row, though, just went. So
3 tackles. I don't think we're going to see that, but there could very much happen.
Oh, for sure.
And it also could be based on the needs of the teams and also who they favor more. It could just all fall in their laps on this is the exact guy I want.
Yes.
You're back on the clock. What you looking at?
Yes, I am. And that means what for the Colts? Man,
There's a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think with them because I don't think they're going into this offensive minded whatsoever. I think they might want another disruptor on the line. The secondary is kind of weak too. You know what? Let's just go with the best DB in college, Jahdae Barron. I mean, he kind of shut down Ohio State in Jeremiah Smith for a majority of the game. So
I think people might say this might be a reach, but I don't really think it's as much as a reach as we think. Because again, there's so much offense of talent here that the defense is going to be underlooked.
I mean, honestly, I could have seen Jahdae Barron going to a team like the Niners because
yeah,
you lose a ton of people. So,
Falcons do they keep Kirk Cousins? Do they keep my cousin there? I don't know. You could draft a wide receiver, but what really is that helping you? You have supposedly 2 really good, talented receivers in Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I think you have to help your defense. Your defense looks horrendous. Do they need a safety is my question. I think they do, no?
No, Jesse Bates.
Jesse Bates. No, never mind. I completely forgot about Jesse Bates. So they're not going to go for safety. They can't go for safety here. But I was debating between there before realizing Jesse Bates is there. It's going to be Mike Green. Mike Green's the guy. You're going to have to start from the bottom and work your way to the top on the defensive line, and I think that's how you're going to have to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to think that Mike Green being from Marshall is the sexiest pick, but if you don't know who he is, you better find out. Pretty sure he was second in the nation in sacks. So.
Yeah, he was really good. I'm back on the clock here. All right, let's see. What can the Cardinals do here? They need to protect Kyler Murray at all costs. Do they reach on a tackle? I think this is something where at this point, if they are looking for an offensive line, they're going to trade back because there's nothing here where they could. They're either going to trade up for a better tackle or they're just going to let it ride and let it fall. Because there's a lot of defensive players and a lot of defensive teams that need defensive players would be willing to trade up here. And the Cardinals are always bound to trade because they always like trading in the draft. I think you're going to have to go for a tackle. It's the only answer for you guys. Armin Mimbo, you're going to have to go for the Missouri kid.
He's a beast too, so I don't hate that pick at all. I'm back on the clock with the Bengals, and you know what? I think they're going to do whatever they can to retain the core that they have. The biggest thing was their defense, so I think the best player on the board right now has to come off. Their secondary was awful, so I think Malachi Starks is going to help that Bengals secondary profusely. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think if you're going to help your offense by signing people in the free agency, then you're going to have to look at the defense in the draft.
Exactly.
Seattle's on the clock here. Now, here's the thing. If Tyler Lockett goes, do they try and get a receiver here? No, I don't think they should. Again, I think you got to still look at your defense. I think Mikael Williams is the guy that kind of screams the name of going to the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's played very well in Georgia when he's had the opportunities. And I think for Seattle, you have a decent offense. Maybe you just need you're a quarterback away, really. Maybe you could sign one in the offseason for a backup, maybe compete with Gino. But I think your defense needs a little bit of work. I mean, it was really bad.
Mm. Micah Williams is a stud, so that's a pretty good pick.
Back-to-back Georgia people, too.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes much higher than that.
Yeah. Bucks are on the clock here. I mean, if they get rid of Chris Godwin, I don't think they should draft a receiver here because they got James McMillan.
Yeah.
Their offense is star-studded. Baker looked amazing. The line looked amazing. The biggest question mark is your defense. We're seeing a lot of defensive teams here, and that's why I can see a lot of teams that don't want the offense or that are looking for offensive players could just trade back because of how many defensive teams are here in the middle. I think they're going to go for a defensive line. Now, the question is, do they go for the guy from Michigan or do they go for the guy from Mississippi? You could rank them kind of similar, but at the same time, I'm going to lean more on Walter Nolan from Mississippi.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm back on the clock here with the Broncos, and I don't know what they do. I guess the big obvious one is get another weapon for Bo Nix. But I'll be honest with you, I think Luther Burden's going to fall. I mean, he already has. But maybe the Broncos just look at him as the guy who was reportedly the best wide receiver coming into this draft class before the season started. They see the potential upside there. They want to give Bo Nix another weapon. Luther Burden is a Bronco.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about it. I'd rather see Egbuka there. I think it could just thrive so much better. But I think that's a Bronco move there.
Well, I didn't do that because I have Emeka Egbuka becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler. Unfortunately, as much as I don't want it to happen.
Really?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. I mean, of course, he could go away before this, but if he is here for the Steelers, him or Matthew Golden, I think, are the two picks here. They need more weapons, and they already have their big, secure catch guy in George Pickens. I think they need a slot guy, a very reliable slot guy, because let's be honest, as great of a player as Pickens is, he disappears a lot, and they just need a reliable guy. I think Emeka and both Matthew Golden have been exactly that for their respectable teams, their respectable schools. So I think one of them are going to go right here. I pick Emeka Egbuka, but I would hope Emeka Egbuka can fall to 25 for the Texans. So Stroud and him can.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yes, I would love
that. Would be amazing.
I wanted to do it, but of course, you also have two picks in there too. So I don't want to just rig it, but I would love to see Stroud and Egbuka connecting back in Houston. Now,
that would be crazy.
I think they're going to sign back J.K. So
yeah,
also wouldn't even think about a running back here. Wide receiver, I said they're possibly going to get Keenan Allen, and again, I also don't think it's that much of a necessity for them to go after here. If they lose Joey Bosa, and even if they don't, that defensive line is what I think is going to be the biggest need. I'm looking at Kenneth Grant, who has some ties with Harbaugh, and I think that's where they go.
I love that.
I don't think he can pass up on a Michigan guy. I saw an interview from Harbaugh when he was at Michigan, said that Kenneth Grant is in 10 years going to be the best D lineman out of that team that they had, and that includes Mason Graham. So we'll see. He is a freak of nature. I think that's a great pick for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think this would have been, if I was doing the AFC, this would have been my pick here because, again, we know how Harbaugh is a Michigan guy and how he coached there. He coached Grant. So, I mean, if you really like Grant, then this is the guy that you have to go get if he's there. Yeah. Green Bay, Gary, unfortunately, he would have never fallen to Houston. because I would have picked
Oh,
Amika.
really?
I would have loved to see Amika connect with Jordan Love as well. I think I can't hate it if he goes to Green Bay, and I also would love it though if he went to Houston, but I just don't see him falling that far down. I think they need a true wide receiver one, and unfortunately, they have to pick one of the last ones that should be drafted in the first round in Matthew Golden. But I think if I'm Green Bay and I want a true wide receiver one and I can't get it in the offseason, I need to trade up and get one.
Mhm.
So Matthew Golden's the pick.
I agree with you. I honestly don't think that neither Emeka or Matthew Golden are true wide receiver ones as much as I like both of them. So, yeah, I think that they would trade up if they really, truly want a wide receiver one. I don't see that happening. But to go back off of what you said with Emeka and the Packers, man, I love that too because Packers my NFC team. So, listen.
There you go.
What's crazy is I have him going to the Steelers, and that's literally the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, I would hate it. I would actually hate it. For fantasy too, fantasy value, I wouldn't like it.
Exactly.
I would have never picked him going to the Steelers because I still think if Aaron Rodgers is going to play again, it could be an Aaron Rodgers Devontae Adams connection there with George Pickens. So I don't think they would need a wide receiver. Minnesota, Aaron Jones, is he going back there? That's the biggest question. Now I got to go see University of North Carolina go play at Fenway Park. That's right. The unfortunate part was Hampton was not playing in that game. But I've seen highlights on Hampton, and I've seen how good he is. This is also a bigger question mark. Does he actually make it into the first round, or does he fall into the second round? I think there could be teams that could trade into the first round for him to get that fifth-year option, or it's Minnesota. Unfortunately, I don't see any other team towards the bottom that really needs a running back, an RB1. So I think Amarian Hampton is going to be drafted to the Minnesota Vikings.
Don't hate it. I have Jones going back, but if he doesn't, this makes all the sense in the world. Look out for maybe Travion going in that spot.
Yeah, Travion would be nice.
All right.
I just don't see Travion going so high, but I do believe that he can be a really star-studded running back.
Yeah. All right. So I'm back on the clock with the Texans, and like I said, I would love it if Emeka was here. I think if in the real world, if Emeka was here, and he definitely possibly can be, they would in a heartbeat pick him up. Man, what else do they need? I guess just protection, like interior protection for Stroud. Two of the best like interior linemen. Like I think it's Tyler Booker. Who does this thing have?
I mean,
nobody.
Yeah, they're really, you start to get down far.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think we're gonna do it. Can you, in terms of filter positions, and just press like guard.
Guard or inside offensive line?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Tyler Booker. I think he's the best interior lineman, and if I'm the Texans, you either maybe trade up for a wide receiver or you trade back, and this is the exact spot that you're looking at. But if I'm right here, I think their first guy is going to be interior lineman, and I think Tyler Booker is the best one in the draft. Wow.
This will definitely be said that it's going to be a reach. But
I don't know.
I mean, if it works out, it works out. I mean, they didn't have to reach. They could also, again, like you said, trade back. And they could also sign one in the offseason. Then they don't really need one. But I agree with you. I think you have to go for your necessary needs. And CJ Stroud didn't look that great this season. And I think you need to address that line. And I think that's going to be the biggest help is getting that line helped. And that's going to help you win more games and protect CJ Stroud.
Agreed.
I'm looking at the Rams here. And I think they've always had a problem with the receivers. And here's where I'm getting with not saying Puka and Cooper Kupp. I'm saying the tight end position. I think for me, in a way, if Cooper Kupp is gone, who is your next guy? I think you're going to need to address that, and you're going to go take Colton Loveland, which I
Wow.
think could be one of the best tight ends in this draft.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I hate this team so much, and I hate that I'm going to get this player because this player is great and he's fallen. Thing with the Ravens is if you look at their needs via this setup here, wide receiver, I think they could still make it work. And regardless, I have DeAndre Hopkins going to Baltimore, so I'm not going to address that. Tackle, I disagree with that. I mean, how bad is their offensive line? I really don't think it is bad.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the better ones, to be honest with you. The edge position is what I'm going to get at here. The cornerback position doesn't bother me because towards the second half of the season, they were the best defense in the league, debatably. Shamar Stewart is a monster, and the fact that we've had him fallen this far, maybe is a little bit disrespectful, but it's just how some of the teams have worked out. Shamar Stewart, if he goes to the Ravens, I will be pretty pissed off because they just managed to draft great again.
You said Stewart, correct?
Yeah.
Not Squirtin. Okay. Well, I think this is a snipe in my way because I think the Lions, for me, I think was going to go here. I think they're actually going to go with the next linebacker available. And what better way to compare up Dan Campbell with a guy, his last name Campbell as well. Not just saying that because it's that, but I think they do need to address some more defense. They had a lot of injuries. It was a lot more defensive injuries. And I think you just kind of need more depth and kind of rotate your guys and make sure that everyone can stay healthy. And I think Campbell is going to be the guy for Detroit.
I actually think I like that pick. I think Jalen Walker is the best linebacker in this draft, so I would have went there. But you were kind of on the same page there. Or Jack Sawyer.
You know, I was getting there because I do remember Sawyer. I think this is where Washington is going to draft Sawyer, actually.
Really?
Yes. I think Sawyer deserves to be a first-round pick. And I don't think they need to go wide receiver here. Their offensive line, yeah, you could say some stuff there, but I think Sawyer would be a great fit in Washington.
Okay, and that's if they don't trade for Myles Garrett, right?
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Good. All right.
Sorry if I took you away from him from either Bills or Chiefs. But
No, you didn't.
I just don't want to see him to go to Philadelphia, but he could. He very much could.
Who's the next best wide receiver available? Alec Ayamaner. Yeah, I don't think they would do that.
No.
Instead, I think they would focus on the defensive side of the ball. The guy that I was just talking about, the guy who I think is the best linebacker in football in this draft, Jalen Walker.
Oof.
Nasty to Georgia.
So
I think he could be a stud here.
I like it. I like that pick actually. I was thinking I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles went with Jalen Walker only because he's a Georgia guy and they always draft Georgia guys. They don't need him, but they could.
All right. Now the Chiefs are on the clock.
What could you do here?
I mean, it's pretty obvious to me. I'm going to go Josh Connolly. I mean, you just watch them get absolutely obliterated on the offensive line. And the only way to do that is to improve it. So if it's not through free agency, which I don't know if it will be or not, I think they're going to do it through the draft. And Josh Connolly is a great tackle prospect.
What do the Eagles do most besides drafting Georgia players?
I mean, I would have said just draft well as a whole.
But I mean, yeah. I'm thinking that they're just going to go for the best player available. And you could say it's Derek Harmon. I don't know if you can really say that, really. Do they need D-line? Yeah, they could. They could use someone like that. I think they're actually going to go for a guy that I think is a little bit underlooked. His ranking is a little lower, but I think his ADP is going higher, and I think we're starting to see the true talent that he brings. They need a cornerback. Benjamin Morrison is the last guy drafted in the first round.
Yeah, he's nasty. That's a great pick, especially because I'm pretty sure Darius Slay said he's done, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I think he said after this he's done. So that could be exactly where they go if he's not drafted already.
I think we got our draft graded, did we? Maybe not. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn this new. So for anyone who doesn't know, PFF, Pro Football Focus, usually has a site for this, but the NFL looks like they kind of bought it out in a way. But I like this. I think this was a good draft.
I agree with you. I think it went well. All these teams were able to get a guy that fixed what their issues were. So
yeah, I kind of liked to kind of the back end of the round. We saw a lot of guys a lot of cool guys coming in that deserves to be first round talents.
Yeah, for sure.
What's your thoughts of your first Makalaka week-a-thon?
Man, it's always the best, right? I mean, like I said, this is what we've been waiting for, and we only got more coming. Next one's on Sunday, right?
You already know that it is next Sunday. Again, if you haven't done so already, we are here every single week, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And go follow us all over social media at Sports Time HQ. We got our shows every single week, 2 times a week. This is our first time we've ever done it. We're so close to 50 episodes of this before the new season officially starts. So we're trying to get there as well. Again, go use that code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. You're going to match first deposit up to $1,000. You heard it here, $1,000. Code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. And again, go to TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Get yourself a trophy, ring, or belt. I'm joined by my great co-host Gary. Go follow him all over social media at GD Hicks. And again, Keith, you can go follow him all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. Hopefully he'll be back with us maybe Sunday, but I can't promise you on that. But even if he can't be there, we still got you another Makalakathon. Check us out all over social media at SportsTimeHQ. I'm your host, Fernando, and we'll see you all on Sunday.